Okay, so the structure of this presentation is that it's kind of like a bunch of presentations all in one. And we started covering carbohydrates. This is like about the four macromolecules of life. We started covering carbohydrates. We're going to finish carbohydrates in this little segment, and then I'm going to make a different segment that has to do with lipids, another segment about proteins, and then I think we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about nucleic acids, but not a ton. And these are what I need you to watch and really gather the information that you are going to need to know regarding each of these macromolecules and what you're going to be tested on, actually. So, what are, um, let's kind of blow through this really quick because I kind of already covered this about carbohydrates, the basics. Sugars are carbohydrates. You can see that the type, like even the word ending os, right, is kind of an indicator, a little bit of a hint about that being sugar. Carbohydrates are stored energy from the sun. So the sun's energy is what we call thermal energy or radiant energy. It's the electromagnetic spectrum. Um, Light comes in and it hits the earth, and the earth has all these living things on it that can photosynthesize, and they capture that energy, and they use the energy from the sun to fund their creation of a molecule called glucose. And glucose is the end result of photosynthesis. It is chemical energy. So it's been transferred from thermal or transferred from light energy into chemical form. Um, a building block of sugars, one building block, it's called a monosaccharide. It is a ring formation. It's a sugar, one ring, saccharide having to do with sugar. I guess I would have to look into the history of that, the etymology of that. And here you can see there's a picture of a fig. A fig is a fruit. It's high in sugar. The like plants' adaptation is to use sugars for their fruit to help either um, feed seeds or there's a lot of different adaptations for that. Like the sugars are there to entice other organisms to come and eat those so that they can then distribute the seeds through their digestive tract and like because they're not windborne seeds. So you can see that that fig is full of seeds and it's full of sugar. It's super tasty. I would definitely aid in that process, especially because I really like figs. So, but if you find that fruits are full of sugars, and these are examples of three different types of sugars: glucose, that we see on the left hand side there, galactose, and fructose. And one of the things I know I pointed out in class is that fructose looks a little bit different, like it has a different structure. However, if we, hang on, clear the screen. I'll just point them out this way. If you count the carbons, and let's start over here. We know that there's a carbon here, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Guess what? We still have 6 carbons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see that on this like chain of carbons there. So it's not that different. It is a little bit different ring structure. It's a pentose ring, and so it just looks a little different than glucose. It also means that there's some different functions to that. And let's see, get back to my mouse so I can click forward. We talked about when you take two monomers or two monosaccharides and put them together, they make a disaccharide, two sugars. Two examples of that are sucrose and lactose. If you know somebody who's lactose tolerant, you know that lactose is actually a galactose and a glucose together. And if you can't break that apart, boy, it just runs right through you, makes people sick. So if you don't have the enzyme that would undo this bond over here and make galactose and glucose from lactose, if you don't have lactase, then you are lactose intolerant. You do not have the enzyme needed to break that apart. Carbohydrates, the function, so we kind of talk about structure, but the function really is energy storage. One of the ways that this becomes really beneficial for us is that we're able to tuck these carbohydrates, these more complex carbohydrates, tuck them away in our body. So examples that we see in plants is starch, and examples that we see in animals is something called glycogen. And glycogen has this capacity to be stored. We store it mainly in the liver, but also can be stored in our muscles where we would need it to be used, right? And starchy foods, you'll see like potatoes and beans. There's kind of like a body to the plant where it's just full of these starches where this energy can be stored away for use at a later time. So it's a major function. Polysaccharide is a long chain of saccharides. So disaccharides is the two, and that's where we see a lot of sugars are going to exist as two. There's not like galactose and glucose are not something we just like add to our food. It's like fructose is. However, most of the time we see them in disaccharide form, and then when you cook them, they break apart. But a polysaccharide is a long chain of saccharides that have been chained together that form a starch. And the picture in this on this slide is of grains, because grains, the seed itself is full of stored energy for the plant embryo, so that the plant has the capacity to grow before it has the capacity to capture energy. So this is a function of reproduction, basically plant reproduction, and we just benefit from that as other organisms feeding in that trophic structure. We benefit from this connection of sugars all together to make long chains of like stored energy. Carbohydrates are used in respiration, specifically glucose, C6H12O6. You have to have oxygen in our form, aerobic cellular respiration, but there are other forms of respiration. And the end result is the production of ATP, which is basically that's the energy that makes it possible to move things around in the cell. Carbohydrates are also for structure and support. So we're going over all the functions of carbohydrates, right? So kind of go back. Get this idea: energy storage. Okay, they're used in respiration. They're used for structure and support. Those should be in your notes. Very clear. You should be like functions of carbohydrates. Bam, bam, bam. So one is structure and support, and I want you to kind of look really closely. You see these chained together. Let's see if I click. Oh yeah, here we go. Sugars all chained together and then woven together, kind of like fibers in a rope. Make a microfibril, and those microfibrils together woven around one another make up cellulose in the plant cell wall. That's what we see here, and that's what gives plants strength. We cannot actually digest cellulose, but there are some organisms that can. It just kind of passes through us. The carbohydrates can also be chained together in animals. One of the common forms is in something called chitin, which is a complex carbohydrate that is used in the formation of the exoskeleton of insects and arthropods. So we kind of covered carbohydrates so far. For what are carbohydrates, what creates carbohydrates, what major functions do carbohydrates have, and then to give 4 specific examples of carbohydrates. So I want you to remember that photosynthesis is the process by which carbohydrates first start off. Okay, so we take carbon dioxide and water, and the energy of the sun is used to create sugars, and that's where it all starts. Here we go. The chemical makeup of carbohydrates is important for you to understand. We know that we have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, carbohydrates, right? And you can see in these examples, like glucose is C6H12O6, fructose is C6H12O6, sucrose is C12H22O11. Seems like a little something might be missing. Like right here, if I were to add these together, which is what makes sucrose, right? Glucose and fructose. So the carbons, 6 plus 6 equals 12. Hydrogens, 12 plus 12 does not equal 22. And 6 plus 6 does not equal 11. I'm missing something. What am I missing? I am missing 2 H's, and an oxygen. Huh. Doesn't that make water? All right. Yes, yes, it does. And we know from some of what we've already been talking about this week that when you put two sugars together, the process by which they are bonded together is called dehydration synthesis. So this water comes out of the reaction, and what is left over is like two ring structures that are bonded together. Now this is showing the skeletal structure of those carbohydrates. It's not showing the ring structure. So just so you know, adding means we have to take something out. We take the water out when we add those two sugars together, or more than one sugar together. Let's erase this. There we go. Dehydration synthesis is how molecules in biological systems are chained together. And then I just want to kind of like throw a little problem at you. We're asking you here to calculate the chemical formula for a polysaccharide that is made of 5 molecules of glucose. So if I'm taking, hopefully it's going to give me the answer. We'll see. If not, I'll give you the answer. So far, your notes should include what the difference between a monosaccharide is, a disaccharide, and a polysaccharide. Give 2 examples of each. And if you can't, if you don't have that down, then go ahead and go back and fill it in. And then what 3 elements make up carbohydrates? What is the base ratio? 1, 2, 1, right? And then dehydration synthesis creates chains of molecules by removing, water. So your notes, this is your checkpoint. Your notes should include all of those things. It didn't give the answer. Let's go back and take a look at this problem. So if I were to take 5 molecules of glucose, C6H12O6. Okay. Let me see. Okay, my C's are not going to change, right? Okay, O, C6, sorry, H12. My goodness. It's a lot of writing when you're using a little mouse for it. La la. Okay. Every time I have to chain these together, I'll just kind of show you the thinking here. 5 molecules. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So out of this, I'm going to take out a water. So that's going to leave me with 11. Boom. 11. Okay. Then out of this one, I'm going to take, let's go ahead and let's make that one a 5. And then this one I'm going to make, a 10. Uh-oh. What am I doing wrong here? Down, down. H2. Okay, let's keep going. Got to take another water out. So we'll make this one the 5 for this H2O. And this one will make the 10. Okay. And this one is going to be a 5. And then we'll just add them all up and see what I would have lost. H2O and 2. So 10. All right. So all together, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 26. Let's go like this and draw a line just so you see my thought pattern here. So O, 26. 11, 22 plus 30, 32. H, 32. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. C, 30. That's a big molecule. Boy, those would get kind of crazy, wouldn't they?